If I told you that a common weed growing by the roadside, ignored, stepped on, and sprayed with chemicals, could heal wounds, fight infections, soothe your gut, and even outperform some pharmaceuticals, would you believe me? Meet the plant doctors don't want you to notice. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's powerful. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a forgotten remedy that could change how you see the plants around you. And yes, it works. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at weeds the same way again.
You've probably walked past it 1,000 times, growing in the cracks of sidewalks, between the stones in your driveway, or by the side of a dusty trail. It's everywhere, yet invisible. People call it a weed, but nature calls it a healer. This is plantain. No, not the banana. This is Plantago major, a leafy green plant with wide, ribbed leaves and a flower spike that grows straight up like a tiny bottle brush. To most people, it's nothing special, just another green nuisance. But to those who know what it can do, it's like finding free medicine under your feet. The truth? Plantain is a medicinal powerhouse that's been quietly healing people for centuries, long before drugstore shelves were lined with pills. It can soothe burns, stop bleeding, relieve insect bites, heal ulcers, and even reduce swelling. It's been called nature's Band-Aid for good reason. So why don't more people know about it? Why is something so accessible, so effective, and so free not talked about in hospitals or pharmacies? Why isn't it common knowledge that you could literally bend down, pick this plant, and treat a wound on the spot? Well, let's be honest. You can't patent a weed, and there's no money in free healing. That's why this chapter starts not just with a plant, but with a question. When did we stop trusting the earth to heal us? Plantain's story is one of invisibility, not because it's weak, but because it's powerful in a world that profits from your pain. And in a healthcare system designed around ongoing treatment instead of quick healing, a plant that actually works might be the biggest threat of all. Coming up next, the truth about what's inside this plant, because once you know what it can actually do, you'll never walk past it again.
Let's peel back the leaves and get closer. At first glance, plantain doesn't look like anything special. It's short, broad-leaved, with distinct parallel veins that run from the base to the tip of the leaf. But beneath that humble appearance lies a complex chemical structure that's been healing wounds, calming skin, and soothing stomachs for generations. The first hero compound? Aucubin. This natural chemical gives plantain its antibacterial and anti-inflammatory strength. Aucubin works by helping the body reduce swelling and resist infection, like a built-in antibiotic straight from the soil. It's been shown in studies to fight harmful bacteria, making it a frontline soldier for skin wounds, scrapes, or even insect bites. Next is elantin. You might have seen this ingredient in high-end skincare. Elantin promotes cell regeneration, which means it helps your body build new tissue quickly. This is why plantain is called nature's Band-Aid. It doesn't just cover up a wound, it actively helps it heal faster. No preservatives, no synthetic chemicals, just pure, plant-based magic. And then there are the mucilage compounds. These are sticky, gel-like substances that form when plantain leaves are crushed or steeped. Mucilage coats the stomach lining, throat, and intestines, making it excellent for ulcers, acid reflux, and digestive inflammation. Think of it like an internal salve that cools and calms from the inside out. Let's not forget tannins, a class of antioxidants with stringent properties. Tannins tighten tissues and stop bleeding, making plantain an ideal first aid leaf for cuts and scrapes when you're out in the wild. So while this plant looks like nothing more than a sidewalk squatter, it's actually a fully stocked natural pharmacy. And it didn't take scientists long to figure that out, because centuries before clinical trials, it was being used by herbalists, warriors, and midwives to treat just about everything. But where did this knowledge come from? And why do so few of us know it today? Let's take a step back in time.
Long before the term anti-inflammatory became a buzzword, people knew this plant could heal. Centuries ago, Native American tribes used plantain leaves to draw out venom from snake bites and soothe wounds from arrows or blades. European herbalists called it white man's footprint, not just because it grew wherever settlers traveled, but because they brought it with them for its unmatched healing properties. Even Roman soldiers packed it in their field kits, not as a last resort, but as a front-line remedy. So how did we lose this knowledge? As industrial medicine rose, plant-based remedies were slowly painted as old wives' tales. Not because they didn't work, but because they weren't profitable. You can't bottle a sidewalk weed and charge $300 for it. Pharmaceutical companies needed synthetic versions of nature's gifts because those could be patented, marketed, controlled. And so plantain was forgotten, labeled a nuisance, mowed down, poisoned with herbicide, paved over. A silent erasure of one of nature's most generous healers. But here's the twist. Modern science is catching up. Researchers are now validating what our ancestors already knew. Lab studies confirm its antibacterial and tissue regenerating effects. Medical journals are beginning to cite it as a promising candidate for wound care, digestive issues, and even chronic inflammation. What was once folklore is now evidence-based medicine, and yet it still grows silently by the road, waiting to be rediscovered. It's a symbol of how much we've lost and how much we still stand to regain. All it takes is a shift in perspective. The medicine isn't always in a bottle. Sometimes it's beneath your feet. Coming up in the next chapter, we're going deep into the real science, the compounds, the studies, and why even some doctors are quietly turning back to this roadside remedy.
Science doesn't lie, and now it's finally paying attention to plantain. Let's start with a simple fact. Plantain is packed with bioactive compounds. That means substances that actually interact with your body in meaningful, measurable ways. Not just folklore, not just natural is better talk. We're talking lab-tested, peer-reviewed results that show this weed has real therapeutic power. The first standout compound we mentioned earlier, aucubin, is worth another look. In several studies, aucubin has shown strong antibacterial and antiviral activity. It disrupts the growth of harmful microbes, particularly the ones that cause infections in open wounds or internal inflammation. That's why crushed plantain leaves can stop an infection in its tracks. It's biochemical warfare, and plantain is armed. Then there's allantoin, the superstar of skin regeneration. Modern cosmetics use it to speed up healing, soothe irritation, and reduce scarring. But where did they get the idea? You guessed it, plants like plantain. When applied to a wound, allantoin encourages new skin cell growth, which can close cuts faster and reduce the chance of infection or scarring. That's something your average antibiotic ointment can't do. And what about mucilage, that sticky, gel-like substance we mentioned earlier? In the lab, it acts like a buffer, especially in the digestive system. It's incredibly effective for calming ulcers, soothing an inflamed gut, and even easing chronic acid reflux. It coats and protects irritated tissues, letting them heal naturally instead of being constantly re-aggravated by acid, bile, or inflammation. But there's more. Plantain is also rich in flavonoids, polyphenols, and tannins, natural antioxidants that fight free radicals and reduce oxidative stress in the body. Translation: they help slow aging, reduce chronic inflammation, and support immune function. So now the question becomes, if this plant is this powerful, why isn't it being prescribed or even recommended more often?
That's what we'll begin exploring next, how traditional knowledge aligns with modern findings, and how doctors, scientists, and herbalists are quietly taking another look at what nature got right all along. When we think of medicine, we often picture pills, prescriptions, and polished packaging. But plantain flips that idea upside down, because this unassuming green leaf checks boxes that many modern drugs can't. Let's talk about its anti-inflammatory strength. Inflammation is behind so many chronic conditions: arthritis, asthma, gut issues, even heart disease. What makes plantain extraordinary is how it calms that inflammation from multiple angles. In a 2017 study published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, plantain extract was shown to reduce both acute and chronic inflammation in test subjects. The researchers noted a significant reduction in swelling, comparable to pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories, but without the side effects. That's the thing. Many over-the-counter medications like NSAIDs, ibuprofen, aspirin, come with long-term risks: gut bleeding, kidney issues, or even cardiovascular strain. Plantain, by contrast, offers a gentler, multi-pronged approach. It doesn't just treat symptoms, it encourages the body to heal holistically. And then there's its antimicrobial power. Plantain has shown effectiveness against several harmful bacteria, including Staphylococcus aureus, the kind responsible for staph infections. It even shows promise in slowing fungal growth. When used topically, it helps disinfect wounds naturally, which is why it was historically mashed into a poultice and slapped onto injuries in battlefields and farmlands alike. But plantain doesn't just work on the outside. It works internally too. It contains apigenin, a flavonoid that's been studied for its anti-cancer, anti-anxiety, and neuroprotective properties. Apigenin interacts with your body's GABA receptors, the same ones affected by anti-anxiety meds like benzodiazepines, suggesting that this humble weed could help calm the nervous system and promote mental balance. Now imagine this: a single plant that heals wounds, soothes the gut, calms inflammation, fights bacteria, and even supports the brain. And yet, most people rip it out of their yards. But it gets deeper, because even though the evidence is growing, you won't find plantain on the shelves of most pharmacies. Why? Let's connect the dots next through history, medicine, and the rediscovery of forgotten remedies. So here we are, with mountains of emerging research confirming what traditional healers knew centuries ago: plantain works. But even with science on its side, this plant remains largely ignored in modern mainstream healthcare. Why? The answer lies partly in how our medical system is structured. Pharmaceutical development is a business, a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry built around innovation, patents, and profit. Natural remedies like plantain can't be patented in their raw form. You can't own a plant that grows for free on every continent. That makes it financially unattractive, even if it's medically effective. This doesn't mean doctors are malicious or the system is evil. Most physicians simply aren't taught about herbal remedies during their training. Medical schools focus heavily on pharmacology, surgery, and diagnostics, not wild plants growing in empty lots. But there's a shift happening. More and more integrative medicine practitioners, those who blend traditional healing with modern science, are turning their attention back to plants like plantain. Why? Because they've seen results their textbooks didn't mention. Skin conditions improving without steroids, gut inflammation calming down without prescriptions, wounds healing without antibiotics. And patients are noticing too. People are tired of side effects, dependency, and rising drug costs. They're looking for gentler, natural alternatives. And plantain is quietly making a comeback in herbal communities, home gardens, and even some progressive clinics. In fact, a growing number of herbalists, naturopaths, and holistic doctors now recommend plantain for first aid kits, digestive support, and even long-term inflammation control. Some even formulate it into creams, teas, and tinctures that sell out quickly at wellness stores and farmers markets. Here's the truth. Nature's medicine isn't new. It's just been forgotten. But as more research emerges and awareness grows, people are starting to see that maybe the real pharmacy isn't inside a bottle, but outside, in the grass where a little green weed waits to help. Next, we'll go even deeper, into the history books. From battlefield cures to folk traditions, Chapter 3 will show you how plantain helped humanity long before modern medicine existed.
Long before we had hospitals, sterile tools, or even written prescriptions, people turned to the land for healing. And plantain was one of the first plants they reached for. Its medical history runs deep and wide, touching nearly every major civilization. In ancient Europe, plantain was a staple in the healer's toolkit. The Anglo-Saxons included it in the 9 herbs charm, a sacred medical incantation dating back over 1,000 years. To them, plantain wasn't just helpful, it was holy, believed to fight poison, infection, and evil spirits. The herb was often mashed and pressed onto wounds, or brewed into teas for sore throats and ulcers. Across the ocean, Native American tribes independently discovered plantain's power. The Cherokee, Iroquois, and Lakota tribes used it as a poultice for snake bites, burns, insect stings, and infections. The Iroquois even chewed the leaves and applied them directly to toothaches. And during long journeys or battles, warriors carried plantain to help stop bleeding or reduce inflammation, an early, natural form of emergency care. Interestingly, when European colonists arrived in North America, they found plantain already thriving. They called it white man's footprint because it seemed to follow them wherever they went, sprouting along trails, roadsides, and settlements. Some indigenous communities believed it was a sign of colonization itself, a plant that walked with the settlers. Even during medieval and Renaissance Europe, plantain was documented in major medical texts. The famous herbalist Nicholas Culpeper praised it for curing wounds, ulcers, inflammations, and all manner of hurts and diseases. In his writings, he noted that plantain had cooling and drying properties, ideal for balancing the body's humors and treating fevers and skin disorders. And during wartime, especially during World War I and II, when medical supplies were limited, soldiers and medics turned to wild plantain to disinfect wounds and stop bleeding. Sometimes it was all they had, and it worked. The fact that so many unrelated cultures use the same plant for similar reasons speaks volumes. But how does that ancient wisdom line up with what today's labs and researchers are discovering? Let's explore that next.
You might wonder, were those ancient healers just lucky? Was their knowledge based on superstition, or is there real science behind their remedies? Modern research says they were right all along. In recent years, scientists have taken a closer look at Plantago major, the same plant used by ancient tribes and medieval herbalists. What they've found is nothing short of remarkable. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry confirmed that plantain has strong antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Researchers tested plantain extracts against harmful bacteria like E. coli and Staphylococcus aureus, and the results were clear. The plant inhibited growth, especially in skin and wound-related infections. In another study from the Iranian Journal of Basic Medical Sciences, plantain extract was shown to accelerate wound healing in rats. The treated wounds closed faster, had fewer signs of infection, and showed increased collagen production, a key element in forming strong, healthy skin. Then there's the digestive link.
plantain's mucilage content, remember that soothing gel we talked about, has been studied for gastroprotective effects, meaning it helps protect and heal the stomach lining. In one experiment, plantain reduced ulcer size and irritation in lab animals, with healing results comparable to commercial antacids. Even its antioxidant activity is now lab-proven. Flavonoids and tannins in plantain help reduce oxidative stress, a major contributor to chronic inflammation, aging, and even cancer. So here's the connection. The ancient applications, wound healing, anti-inflammatory use, pain relief, digestive soothing, are now being confirmed in scientific journals, not just anecdotes, hard data. It turns out those herbalists, midwives, warriors, and shamans didn't need lab coats to recognize a miracle when they saw one. They had something just as powerful. Centuries of observation, experience, and intuition passed down through generations. But there's something else these ancient systems got right: how they viewed the body as a whole. They didn't just treat the wound or the stomach or the skin, they aimed for balance. And that's something modern medicine is slowly, cautiously coming back around to. Next, we'll explore how those traditional preparations, teas, poultices, and salves, are making a modern comeback, and how you can use them yourself.